Hello everyone, this is Fantasy-esque and welcome back to Season 2 of Royal Clan in ClanGen, the Warrior Cats clan generator game. When we left off in the previous episode, we had more fleas and maple seeds, which was quite exciting. Not the flea part, of course. We had around a couple episodes ago, and then I guess Shining Stripe picked up some. Hopefully he gets rid of that very, very soon. But one of our young cats, Foxclaw, he managed to find these really pretty maple seeds, and now he's wearing it on his coat and it looks really, really nice on him. I love it when my cats pick up accessories. I don't know why, it just makes their personality even more vibrant, probably because it makes their appearance more vibrant. But that aside, this is quite a mixed bag of an episode. We have the excitement, of course, for our two new warriors who have already had their warrior ceremonies. But then something quite unexpected and actually tragic has happened. So we're going to go over all of that in a second. We are in the first turn of Leaf Fall and it is Moon 90. Real quickly jumping to the Leader's Den, we have all of our allies. So Queen Rainstar is maintaining the alliances quite well. And then on to events. Icicle Speck will always feel his grief, but time has softened it, at least a little. Frostfade was seen in a very serious conversation with a kitty pet who ran away when another patrol approached. The clan has encountered Dancing, who is one of our servant clan cats. And then, guys, the tragedy that struck. Frostfade was having a peaceful stroll outside of camp when he was attacked and killed by a badger. That's right, we have lost Frostfade in the prime of his life. He was an adult, I think 56 moons old, something around that. And, this is crushing because Frostfade for a long time, I feel, was quite the invisible cat in the clan, not really getting much done, or not really in the limelight, as opposed to his brother Quillrunner, who is everywhere all the time, and we're constantly hearing about. But I feel like ever since he actually became the mentor of Cinnamon Paw, I started noticing Frostfade, interacting with the other cats a lot more. And then around that time, I think Freezefur also started having a crush on Frostfade, and it just felt like Frostfade was kind of finding his own feet, his own paws finally within the clan, and getting, his due bit of attention. So I was actually really happy to see how involved he was becoming in the clan, and then to have something like this happen, to have him killed by a badger. And the terrible part of it all, not just, him dying in the prime of his life, is that he was doing so well as a mentor, and he actually had his apprentice lined up to become the Cinnamon Prince. And, this was supposed to be an exciting moon where he got to see the fruits of his labor, essentially, his apprentice becoming a warrior. But before the ceremony, Frostfade got attacked and was killed. So in the aftermath of that, his mother, Flarefreckle, actually became the temporary mentor of Cinnamon Paw so that she could kind of see him through his ceremony in place of Frostfade, which is so heartbreaking. He was so close, but he didn't even get to see his apprentice become a warrior. Okay. Icicle Speck can hardly believe how quickly time has passed since Cinnamon Paw was a kit. It still feels like just yesterday that he was tumbling around the nursery, chasing after a mossball or some other cat's tail. Misty-eyed with pride and joy, Icicle Speck throws his head back and tries to cheer the loudest, as Cinnamon Paw is named Cinnamon Fur, which I have renamed to Cinnamon Tail, and honored for his strong will. So Cinnamon Paw is now Cinnamon Tail, guys. And then Riverpaw fidgets nervously as he steps forward in front of the clan. This is an important moment, so he tries not to hide his face from the crowd as Queen Rainstar gives him the name River Whistle, in honor of his realism. He quickly scurries back into the crowd once the ceremony is done, silently hoping that this will be the last ceremony he ever has. So Cinnamon Tail and River Whistle are very different to each other, even though River Whistle is favored by both his parents, Icicle Speck and Garlic Glow. Cinnamon Tail is actually the brother who's always in the limelight, always like talking to the other cats, constantly in the know-how. Like, he's in all of the, social circles. That's the type of cat Cinnamon Tail is. Whereas a River Whistle, he doesn't like kind of having the attention on him. He prefers to kind of stay in the shadows. He prefers to not be bothered, because having everyone's attention on him makes him really nervous. And I think he even prefers not getting like the big responsibilities, or the big moments. He prefers to get maybe the smaller jobs, the little tasks that don't require him to have too much kind of responsibility on his shoulders or baggage on himself. So it's kind of interesting to see the difference between the two brothers. So in a lot of ways, it does make sense that Cinnamon Tail ended up being the Cinnamon Prince. And then Icicle Speck approaches the clearing where Frostfade's body lies, cold and lifeless. Defying expectations of sympathy and grief, Icicle Speck instead curses his fallen clanmate to the dark forest where he belongs. Icicle Speck, and he is having a very different reaction to when Scorchmoss died. That hit Icicle Speck really hard. Whereas Frostfade, he doesn't seem to have too much respect for Frostfade. This was one of the cats that he hated, so I suppose it makes sense, but damn, Icicle Speck, it's kinda cold. Shining Stripe will miss Frostfade, his nephew, truly. There was no other cat he trusted more, and he already misses Frostfade's steady presence at his side. He trembles, tearing at his nest, unable to sleep as he broods over Frostfade's last moments. Did he suffer? Was he scared? Frostfade had such a bright future ahead of him. I feel the same. Flarefreckle can still hear him talking about his dreams, can still picture him running through Royal Clan's territory, and to know that Frostfade will never get the chance to fulfill that. Once night comes and she falls asleep, Flarefreckle desperately wails Frostfade's name, movements frantic as she struggles, refuses to accept his death. Oh, Frostfade. She was really lucky, if you think about it, to have both her sons survive even to the age they did, because a lot of litters, they have, members that kind of die pretty young. So she's lucky in that aspect. And I feel like within the clans, a lot of parents do see their offspring pass before them. Very rarely does a cat make it, who is clan born, makes it to elderhood even. So, I'm so sad. I was expecting Frostfade to be one of the cats with Quillrunner, who actually lasted till the very end. Kind of like Flarefreckle and her two brothers, but apparently not. The past moon, Frostfade has taken their place in Star Clan. Royal Clan mourns their loss, and their clanmates will miss the spot they took up in their lives. Moments of their life are shared in stories around the circle of mourners, as those that were closest to them take them to their final resting place. Frostfade, it was so nice having you with us, but goodbye. Goodbye, Frostfade. And now we need to take a look at the apprentices, of course, to see how they look. So here we have Cinnamon Tail and a River Whistle, our two brothers who actually look very pretty. My favorite of the two is Cinnamon Tail over here. Looks so wonderful. And he has retained his confident personality. He's got steady paws and is a good speaker. Very much in line with what I like, the kind of cat I perceive him to be. And in terms of how he was influenced, now obviously Flarefreckle didn't really have any sort of influence over him because she was just there in the ceremony on behalf of Frostfade, who had died earlier on. But he was mentored by Frostfade and Flarefreckle. Frostfade influenced him to be more likely to refrain from socializing and make impulsive decisions. Frostfade helped him become better at caring for camp. When he graduated, he was honored for his strong will. So with Frostfade, because he was so adventurous, being adventurous aside, as a mentor, we kind of saw him doing really well with Cinnamon Tail and pushing him to be the best and then eventually becoming prince. So I can kind of see how he would maybe advise Cinnamon Tail to not get caught up kind of playing around with other cats too much, just focus on yourself and your training. And then making the impulsive decisions is probably him saying that follow your gut and see where it takes you. That, I think, kind of leads into Frostfade's own adventurous nature, encouraging that in Cinnamon Tail. And then helping him become better at caring for camp, which I think is very nice. I feel like Frostfade also had a very good idea of caring for his friends and family and, you know, the other royals that he lives with in the grotto. So that's actually really nice. Just because, you know, refrain from socializing doesn't mean that you take advantage maybe of the cats that are around you, or you don't kind of push responsibility onto other cats. You kind of take your share yourself. So that's Cinnamon Tail, guys. And yeah, we do have the note that says he was one of 2 apprentices in his batch and graduated as the Cinnamon Prince. And then we have his brother River Whistle, who also looks quite lovely. And it's nice to see his coat properly, because I think when he was an apprentice, the sprite he had showed us his belly, but not really his coat, so this is actually quite nice. He has also retained his nervous personality, but he is very clever, which is nice to see. And in terms of how he was influenced, so he was mentored by Freezefur. Freezefur influenced him to be more likely to adapt easily. When he graduated, he was honored for his realism. So this is kind of funny. He obviously hasn't gotten as much from Freezefur as his brother got from Frostfade, because we kind of saw this in Freezefur's teaching strategy, where he used to pretty much throw River Whistle with like other cats, usually Frostfade, but you know, send him on a separate patrol and kind of tell him to observe the other cats when like he wasn't directly supervising River Whistle's training. So I think constantly being in these situations where, you know, he has to be independent or under the guidance of Frostfade kind of made River Whistle maybe a bit more adaptive to the environments he was getting put in. So, you know, I think maybe in his own way that was Freezefur's method of trying to overcome River Whistle's nervousness. It didn't work entirely, but at least it made it so that River Whistle is maybe a little bit more resilient when he's put into stressful situations or new situations. So that is what we have for these 2 cats. Okay, so Shining Stripe and Flare Freckle are in mourning. The others seem to be in good enough spirits to go out on patrols. Let's take a look at the Medicine Cat Den. Icicle Speck was given time as treatment for grief-stricken, and then he overcame that. Shining Stripe was given Plantain as treatment for fleas. Rosemary was used for Frostfade's body, and Icicle Speck could not find any herbs this moon. Let's take a look at relationships to see if maybe we can get an idea of Frostfade's like timeline, his final moments, although I don't know if he would have passed kind of at the beginning of the moon and towards the end. Let's go and see. Freezefur thanked Icicle Speck for bringing him food. Icicle Speck confesses to Quillrunner that he has feelings for Shining Stripe still. Yes, I mean, we are aware of that. Shining Stripe was quick to kind of cut things off with Icicle Speck. Icicle Speck, not so much, but I think he accepted that nothing was ever going to happen once he and Shining Stripe fell out of love. So it's kind of surprising that he is now telling Quillrunner, who is in love with Icicle Speck, about his feelings or his remaining feelings for Shining Stripe, because he hasn't really touched that in a long time. Icicle Speck backs up one of Foxclaw's claims during one of Foxclaw's arguments. Flailstorm doesn't get why Foxclaw gets more praise for doing the same thing everyone else does. Flailstorm bestows wisdom onto Cinnamon Paw. Shining Stripe starts to plan things, hoping that Inkfeather will get involved. Shining Stripe is gossiping with Ghostfeather about Flailstorm. Cinnamon Paw promises Shining Stripe that everything will be okay. Flare Freckle enjoys the time with Queen Rainstar and feels secure. Flare Freckle can think of 100 good things to say about Cinnamon Paw. Bear Pelt asks Inkfeather if his fur looks clean. Now, I'm getting the picture that maybe Frostfade passed on early, like before the relationships. Because if that's the case, then some of these interactions to me make sense, where, you know, Cinnamon Paw is telling Shining Stripe, who is one of the cats mourning Frostfade, that everything will be okay. You know, they'll be able to get through this and figure themselves out. I think Cinnamon Paw is probably made of stronger stuff. And then Flare Freckle is thinking of all these wonderful things to say about Cinnamon Paw, and we know that Flare Freckle was in, like, Cinnamon Paw's ceremony on behalf of Frostfade, like she took over, not training per se, but the role of mentor afterwards. So I think that would make a lot more sense. Bearpelt asks Inkfeather if his fur looks clean. Bepelt explains what a joke means to Cinnamon Paw. Oh, never mind. Okay, never mind. So Frostfade had not died at this point, guys, because Frostfade comes up later on. Okay, so this was all before the death. Right, this was all before the death. Maybe Shining Stripe had like a bad gut feeling about something and Cinnamon Paw was reassuring him. And then Flare Freckle was just thinking to herself that her son's apprentice, is a really good apprentice. And she also was feeling very proud of him because, her son's student. Yeah, I think, okay, that's what's happening. Because over here, then, we have Inkfeather and Frostfade find out they're both bringing flowers to the same clanmate's grave. So we've got that going on. And I don't think it's going to be Scorchmoss because I think Inkfeather was one of the cats who was happy that Scorchmoss died. Inkfeather finds fault in everything Freezefur does. It seems that there's an unspoken apology between Quillrunner and Queen Rainstar. Some things have been rough for Riverpaw lately, but Quillrunner admires his willingness to go on. Frostfade is feeling lost and asks Flailstorm for advice on what to do. Okay, so Frostfade again comes up and he's talking to Flailstorm. Now, with the bringing flowers to the same clanmate's grave, I want to see who has died. Like, who is the last cat to die before Scorchmoss? It was King Fernstar, so I think maybe they both went to give flowers to King Fernstar's grave because Inkfeather was Fernstar's mate, and I think Frostfade had a decent relationship with him, so that actually makes some sense. Okay, and I wonder what Frostfade was feeling lost about, because he was feeling lost. You know what? It must have been because he, I think, had everything sorted in terms of his apprentice and, his teaching, all of that. But the only thing I can think of that he was kind of conflicted about and confused about was maybe his feelings for Freezefur. Because remember how he rejected Freezefur's confession, and then he started having mixed feelings about Freezefur? So it could be that, and he might have been asking Flailstorm for advice on that. Frostfade is frustrated with Riverpaw, but hears him crying alone and immediately feels guilty. Oh my goodness. And we know that Frostfade was helping Riverpaw a lot because Freezefur had asked him to, but maybe Riverpaw, who is completely different in personality to, at this point before the ceremony, Riverpaw, who is completely different in personality to Cinnamon Paw at the time, maybe was a bit jarring and difficult for Frostfade to kind of teach, because he was used to his apprentice being a certain way and Riverpaw was very different and not being able to catch up. But then he kind of felt guilty here, hearing Riverpaw cry alone, because Riverpaw probably realized himself that he's struggling and he doesn't want to disappoint the people around him. Foxclaw playfully teases Ghostfeather for missing a catch. So these two brothers are spending time together. Ghostfeather has been spending time with Flare Freckle lately. Freezefur and Ghostfeather chat about clan news. Garlic Glow and Queen Rainstar always learn something new when they're together. Garlic Glow is having a wonderful time discussing recent clan news with Riverpaw. Queen Rainstar wishes she could get her pelt to shine like Flailstorm's. Cinnamon Paw makes a small sacrifice that benefits Queen Rainstar. Flailstorm lets Cinnamon Tail grab a piece of fresh kill first. So after this point, they have the ceremonies, the warrior ceremonies, but it also means that at this point Frostfade has passed on. So Frostfade, it seems, was having a lot of interactions to do with, him being mentor, I think. I mean, he went to Fernstar's grave with Inkfeather, and then he asked Flailstorm for some advice on his love life, and then he overheard Riverpaw crying, so he had a pretty full day doing a whole lot of different things, I feel. And then he passed on, and then his mother kind of took over temporarily for Cinnamon Paw. Okay, River Whistle and Ghostfeather make each other laugh. Icicle Speck approaches, and then we have, obviously, Frostfade's body and the cats mourning him. Okay, so I love going through the relationships at times like this because it gives us a clearer picture of kind of what happened towards the end. and what happened before a cat died. So I think that's actually really cool. But okay, let's wrap up over here since we have finished with our events and move on to the cat list. Okay, let's continue with the cat list. So first up, we have loyalties, and because we just had some age ups with our new warriors, obviously we're going to be checking to see if Rainstar, our queen, has any new loyalists. And guys, she has one new loyalist in Cinnamon Tail. So the Cinnamon Prince, this kind of makes sense because he is confident and likes being in the limelight. I think probably appreciates the efforts that Rainstar has been making with maintaining the alliances, and since she is a charismatic cat, maybe Cinnamon Tail kind of looks up to her and the position she's in, and he kind of wants to do, like, he wants to work towards that one, but also I think he wants to kind of, you know, be like Rainstar. He wants to aspire to become more like Rainstar as he gets older. So I think, yeah, there is a lot of admiration there. So Queen Rainstar has her very first loyalist in Cinnamon Tail, which is quite exciting. But his brother River Whistle doesn't particularly feel the same. He kind of follows more in the stream of the rest of the clan, which is, you know, falling into the shadows, going with the flow of things, not standing out in any way, even when it comes to his maybe political alignments. So River Whistle is an anti-loyalist. Now, in terms of relationships, there were a few things that I noticed. The first up was with Rainstar, who has had a romance gain with Flare Freckle. And that's because I think Flare Freckle was spending some time with Rainstar and feeling very secure. And I think Rainstar, I mean, we've known this about her since the beginning, but I think she's the type of cat who likes feeling wanted. And when Flare Freckle is, you know, feeling secure with her, Rainstar kind of likes that. So that was something I noticed. The next thing was with Garlic Glow, who has begun a new romance with Ink Feather. Ink Feather, Garlic Glow, what's going on? Now, let's see, was there something that happened between the two of them? And the funny thing is, actually, nothing happened on Garlic Glow's end in this moon. But I think in the last moon, Ink Feather was prancing around in front of her. Ink Feather's feelings kind of grew, but Garlic Glow's didn't. It was like it had no effect on Garlic Glow. But I think this moon, Garlic Glow's kind of been thinking about that, and now Ink Feather's like in her thoughts. So Ink Feather, it was delayed by moon, but you did kind of get a bit of a reaction out of Garlic Glow. So there is that. The next thing I noticed was with Ink Feather. Ink Feather, guys, hates Freeze Fur. Like, what? What's going on? Now, I don't consider them to be enemies because it's not mutual, but I'm now separately categorizing, like, hatreds and enemies. Enemies have to be mutual, because that makes sense. But yeah, she hates Freeze Fur. The only thing I could think of was Freeze Fur was mentored by Fernstar, King Fernstar, back in the day when he was alive. And we know that Ink Feather was Fernstar's mate, and they were going through kind of a very long stagnant period. But I remember Ink Feather not getting along very well with Freeze Fur when he was an apprentice. I'm wondering if some of that has been rekindled a bit more, like her dislike of Freeze Fur, maybe something kind of like he's been staying out of her way ever since he became an adult, but maybe, you know, some incident happened, something in his personality that kind of rubbed Ink Feather the wrong way, and she's remembering how she never really liked him when he was younger. Yeah, there's that. And then I noticed something with Shining Stripe, and Shining Stripe hates Flailstorm. Now this I am very confused about because there was nothing I could kind of piece together in terms of their history to figure out what might have resulted in this. The only thing I could think of is maybe a personality clash between the two of them. I can't think of any way they're linked either. I mean, we have Shining Stripe being righteous and Flailstorm being childish, so it could just be that as Shining Stripe is getting older, he is maybe not kind of appreciating the blasé personality of Flailstorm, the fussy kind of personality of Flailstorm. Maybe that's it. Could also be that because Shining Stripe has just lost his nephew, Frostfade, maybe Flailstorm said something that was a little bit callous and didn't realize it, and Shining Stripe took that really hard. But he's kind of feeling as though Flailstorm is very lonely and a very hateful sort of cat. The final thing I noticed was with Flare Freckle, who has had a romance gain with Queen Rainstar. So she was the one we talked about earlier on. She was spending time with Rainstar and feeling very secure. Especially now, I think that, she's mourning the death of her youngest son. I think Flare Freckle probably needs some sense of protection, and she's getting that from Queen Rainstar. Okay, that is all we have for relationships. Let's jump over to Inkfeather and see if we can get a matchmaking session between Queen Rainstar and Shining Stripe. Okay, so platonic like, respect, comfort increased, dislike and jealousy decreased. I can see how Shining Stripe would not be in the mood for romance at all because he is grieving, of course, and Rainstar likewise, I think, doesn't want to push it with Shining Stripe, and she's probably more focused on just comforting him in general. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what everyone is doing for the day. Queen Rainstar got startled by a squirrel. Garlic Glow curses a squirrel that just barely got away. So imagine that squirrel maybe startled the queen, and then Garlic Glow kind of saw it scurry away. Icicle Speck deeply apologizes for a mistake he's made and tries to fix it. Inkfeather had a nightmare involving a two-leg trap. Shining Stripe is hoping Queen Rainstar notices his improvement. Okay, I mean, I think the last episode, he and Rainstar finally got some romance going between the two of them after giving each other a little bit of sass for a couple episodes. And maybe Shining Stripe is hoping that Rainstar is noticing that he is trying with her, even though he is quite sad right now, like he is trying. Flare Freckle is not looking forward to the sparse hunting in Leaf Bear. Bearpelt is glad it's not so hot out anymore. Coolrunner is mourning Frostfade. Oh, I mean, he is stronger in the sense that he's not allowing himself to break down like his mother and his uncle, but Coolrunner is still thinking about his brother, who he was very close to. Foxclaw is glad it's not so hot out anymore, so Foxclaw is actually hanging out with Bearpelt, which isn't a surprise because Bearpelt has been quite aggressively pursuing Foxclaw. Ghostfeather takes a part of Frostfade's nest to put with his own, clinging to the fading scent. Oh, okay, so Ghostfeather's also kind of thinking about Frostfade, who's kind of attached to... What was his relationship with Frostfade? He wasn't exactly friends with Frostfade or, romantically attached to him, but I think he did probably respect Frostfade. It was a cat that he got along with. Freezefur daydreams about being a warrior in Leopard Clan. Cinnamon Tail wishes he had wings so he could catch birds easier. River Whistle worries about the lack of prey Leaf Bear will bring. Hold on, you are hanging out with who? No one. You're not hanging out with anyone. Okay, and then Flailstorm is batting at his tail. Right, so that is all we have for the cats. Let's wrap up over here and move on to patrols. Okay, let's continue with our patrols. We currently have 95.5 prey, and we need 38.5. Our Royal Physician is finally in a good enough mood to go out on his herb gathering, so we'll send him out first. Leafall holds the last chances to stock up on herbs that will die off in Leaf Bear, and Icicle Speck heads out to gather fresh marigold for the stores before the plants wither and die off. Proceed. The low-growing marigold creeps across the ground. Its strange leaves that imitate fern fronds are distinct, but hard to spot from a distance. What's visible, even from across a meadow, is their explosively sunset-colored flowers. It's time to collect these while they're still here. So marigolds was gathered. And then let's see, we're going to have a patrol of 6 and a patrol of 3. So first up, we have Ghostfeather, Bearpelt, Coolrunner, Queen Rainstar, Foxclaw, and Garlic Glow. Let's see what they get up to. While on patrol, Coolrunner notices some suspicious paw prints in the mud beneath the canopy. proceed, the paw prints lead to a trespassing rogue. Garlic Glow climbs into the trees to set up a trap, aiming to rig a branch to fall on the rogue's head. But she isn't as smart as she thinks she is. The trap fails and the rogue wanders on. Oh, that's a little bit awkward. And then we have the youngsters going out. So we have Cinnamon Tail, River Whistle, and Freeze Fur. So it is the first time that Cinnamon Tail and River Whistle are going on a patrol as warriors, fully fledged warriors. And they do have River Whistle's former mentor, Freeze Fur, with them. So let's see what they get up to. As the patrol is checking the borderlines, they notice that a Storm Clan scent has strayed into their territory. Storm Clan is their ally, but this is a bit suspicious. Proceed. The patrol decides to follow the scent, but only end up walking in circles. Either the trespasser is good at concealing their trail, or the patrol just needs to work on their tracking skills. It doesn't matter now. The whole day has been wasted. Freezefire decides that they should just return to camp and report the strange scent. So relations with Storm Clan have worsened, unfortunately, because this batch of cats couldn't work out what was happening. If they maybe had a bit more skills and were able to work out what was happening, then, they wouldn't be as suspicious about the activities of Storm Clan. But fingers crossed, Queen Rainstar will be able to kind of deal with the aftermath of all of this. But okay guys, that is all we managed to get up to. It definitely was a bit of a long episode, but I think there was a lot of things we needed to, cover. Now, since we don't have any more kittens or apprentices within the clan, it means that I'm going to be playing off camera until we get our next pregnancy. And then we can come back, pick up, see what's going on. I am going to be taking notes of the major events that happened, and then we'll do, the major events that happened, and then we'll do a recap when we come back. But okay guys, with that said and done, I am going to leave off. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.